Please enjoy this message from David Arquette sent in by the fabulous Carrie Tenney.
Hey Ryan, how are you? Thanks for doing the Scream podcast.
Like scary movies?
Uh-huh.
What's your favorite scary movie?
I don't know.
You have to have a favorite. What comes to mind?
You are listening to Scream with Ryan C. Showers, the podcast for Scream fans just like you. Join Ryan every week as he takes a deep dive into the horror film series that defined the 90s and redefined the genre. Scream with Ryan C. Showers is your source for scene and quote analysis, character dissections, and the latest news about upcoming installments of the Scary Movie franchise.
I hear you like horror movies, Curly, but do you like them as much as him?
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Scream with Ryan C. Showers. I'm your host, Ryan C. Showers. Thank you for joining me for today's episode. In the lead up to Scream 7, I couldn't be more grateful for everybody out there who listens to the show, who supports my podcast here, listening every episode, or on social media on Instagram, Facebook, or Twitter. If you would like to become a member of the podcast, come to the group Zooms, be on the show on a one-on-one or small group setting, consider joining the Patreon with Scream with Ryan C. Showers. In addition to the benefits of coming on the podcast, you can also join our social media groups, in particular on Instagram. That's the main hub of the podcast. I also do a monthly audio commentary of a Scream movie or a Scream-related film. From now through April, we are going to be having a new Scream movie audio commentary. So if you would like to hear my thoughts in an audio commentary form in the style of Wes Craven, Marion Maddalena, et al. Of the original trilogy, please consider subscribing and supporting the show. Thank you to every single person out there who subscribes on Patreon. So I need to thank TJ Jones, who does all of the graphic design work for the podcast, and Ashley Summers, who helps me produce the show every week. In addition, I need to thank everybody over at Patreon, including the Stab Investors and Daddy Ghostfaces. The Daddy/Mama Ghostfaces, they include Carrie Tenney, Corey Wilson, Andrew Dominguez, and Brett Janovich. I also need to thank all of my Stab investors. They include Mark Harim, Ali, Tamika Jones, Christian Ranke, David D., Gustavo Mora, Jess Mariano, Joey Nabrini, aka The Vault, John Cardney, Josh Camillari, Josh Carr, Scream Queens Podcast, both Josh and Justine, Kevin Abner, Mark Vieira, PWO5, aka Philip Douglas, Roy Garza from the Hoodie Talks podcast, Ryan Not Dying Young, Sam Levy, and Stevie Shears. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Scream with Ryan C. Showers. I'm your host, Ryan C. Showers. Thank you for joining me for today's episode. So this one is a special one. This may be the most special episode of the podcast that I ever do. So my reputation as a Scream person is really tied up with the fortunes of Scream 3, right? I am kind of the self-proclaimed Scream 3 defender, and I love this movie with all of my heart and soul. It's my favorite movie of all time. It's my favorite Scream movie, of course. It's the movie that kind of changed my life and made me fall in love with cinema in a way. I mean, the entire trilogy did, but Scream 3 is really my heart of that original trilogy, and really where the juice of the story and the arc and the backstory really takes off for me, and kind of completes with Sydney and Roman. There's so much in this movie that was defining for me as somebody who loves film and storytelling and female characters. So here we are. So I am coming to you the day before the anniversary of the release of Scream 3. So last year we celebrated its 25th anniversary, and it was a really nice time to be a Scream 3 fan. We have a 4K release and everything. And the thing is about this movie is it's so personal to me. I was actually thinking about this because we're on the heels of getting Scream 7, right? And I mean, I'm kind of trauma bonded with Scream 7 in a way, just because I defended this movie and I defended Nev returning to the franchise as the main character, as the lead, in a way that I'd never thought I would have to. And it was a very traumatic experience to be like the public facing person of a podcast where the people are very angry at a franchise for politically charged things that aren't necessarily what I deem to be fair criticisms of Nev Campbell and the franchise. But here we are. So, and I was actually thinking, will Scream 7, will this like special bond I have with Scream 7 and the lead up to Scream 7 over the last 3 years be enough to overtake Scream 3 for me? And I have to say the answer is probably going to be no. I love this movie so much because like if I have a trauma bond with Scream 7 with defending it from the Melissa Barrera toxic fandom, and also, it's not only that, because like I was defending Scream 7 and Nev returning to the franchise back before Melissa was still a part of the franchise and still was supposed to be a part of Scream 7. It's so important to me, the character of Sidney Prescott and what she means to Scream, and like what her family history means to Scream. That's why it's so promising that Scream 7 is going to launch into a new story about Sidney's family. We have like the story about Sidney's family here in Scream 3 about like what happened before Sidney, and now we're going to see what happens after Sidney with her daughter and like her husband and her family. So, but I don't think Scream 7 is going to overtake Scream 3 for me. It's such a because like if I have a trauma bond with Scream 7, right, for 2 years, I have like a deeper trauma bond with Scream 3 for the past 20 years, right, of defending this movie on the internet and giving the movie some credibility when everyone was just really hating on it. Scream 3, it was attacked for a myriad of reasons, a lot of which are silly and unfair and stupid, and especially look dumb compared to what Radio Silence dished us out with Scream 5 and 6, especially Scream 6. My God, like if Scream 6 had come out in the year of 2002, dear God, it would have been the butt of every fucking joke on the internet as it pertains to Scream lore. I honestly think a lot of the backlash against Scream 3 in the decades of the 2000s, like I think it had a lot to do with just the pure fact that Kevin Williamson didn't write it, and also people like kind of misjudging the film and mischaracterizing it for something that it's not. One thing I don't like about the criticism of Scream 3 is that it's too comedic. You're gonna see, and I'm gonna point out as we go through this movie right now, I do not believe it's as comedic as people say. I actually think Scream 4 is more comedic. I actually think Scream 6 in some ways is more comedic than what we get with Scream 3. Scream 3, in my opinion, is still in the mold of a drama thriller horror film that Scream 1 and 2 is. There is more comedy. There are dashes of more comedy, but it doesn't overtake the film's tone in the way that some people like to say. In fact, I actually would argue, like, if you're one of those people out there who says, oh, Scream 3 is too comedic, I think that it's a very lazy approach to Scream 3 that doesn't account for the entire movie. You're focusing on a couple of sensational things, or really just like the character of Parker Posey and the Stab 3 cast, which take up very little time in this movie. But anyway, so I'm getting off on a tangent here. But some people just, it comes down to taste. Some people don't like the brother twist. Some people don't like the mansion and like they think it's Scooby-Doo. Well, guess what? All of the fucking Scream movies are Scooby-Doo. They're literally unmasking somebody. It's literally a mystery. So get over it. But I love the brother twist, and I think that people, if you don't, whatever, shrug. But I don't think it's a cardinal sin. So some people, like there's a guy. He's a producer of like Blumhouse films. His name's Ryan Turek. He did like a documentary about Scream, and he was such a dick about Scream 3 and the brother twist. He's like, well, would Kevin have done that? Would Kevin have written that if he was writing it? I'm like, how fucking immature and petty are you, Ryan Turek? And your Halloween movies fucking suck. So there you go. Go watch Halloween Kills. Would John Carpenter have done that? Would Deborah Hill have done that, Ryan Turek? So anyways. Okay, so enough with the spice. Like, this is going to be a very positive, happy time here. For the next 2 hours, we are going to watch Scream 3 together. I'm performing my audio commentary for Scream 3, and it's the only audio commentary I plan to release to the public for public consumption. All of the other audio commentaries I've done over the past year have been Patreon exclusive, and henceforth, they will continue to be Patreon exclusive. Like, so when I do the Scream 4 audio commentary, it will be just, again, for Patreon members only. But, I felt like this was a nice public service that I could do by releasing the Scream 3 audio commentary. And like, so everybody who doesn't subscribe to the Patreon, which you should, by the way, I'm an independent entity. I could use any bit of support that anyone wants to lend me. I do this podcast for fun, but also the podcast has to be produced, right? So I wanted to release this to the public because, because Scream 3 is so important to me, and like my position in the Scream franchise is to continue to defend the integrity of Wes Craven's films, but particularly this Wes Craven film, and this character arc for Sydney and the trio, and the Maureen backstory, and just how much of a nice bow Scream 3 puts on this original story. So I want everyone to hear it. I want as many people to hear it as possible. So and if you like this audio commentary, if I'm not too cringe or if I don't stutter, and I don't know if you guys know, but I actually have a very bad stutter. I've had a bad stutter since I was in like preschool, kindergarten. It's something that I still struggle with. And it's something I'm very self-conscious of. So, when I became the editor of the podcast, whenever I took the job over from Albert after his, 4 years of service, it's something that I'm very diligent about whenever I edit myself. So it's an insecurity, but we're here. We're going to be watching Scream 3 together. So I figured, let's be vulnerable. So, but anyways, I'm so excited. Actually, I retract this. Maybe whenever Scream 7 comes up, maybe I will do an audio commentary for it. So just a peek behind the curtain here. So we will be doing a Scream 4 audio commentary in April. I have a special plan for the audio commentary in March, because March is going to be a weird month. Everyone's going to be talking about Scream 7. Everyone's going to want to be talking about Scream 7. And there was no Scream movie. Like, Scream 3 was released in February. Scream 4 was released in April. So, there's something, it's, what do I do that month? That would split up this. So, I have something cute planned. My plan is to actually do an audio commentary of the Scream 4 deleted scenes, just because like they are as much a part of the film. They should have been in the film. It was wrong to cut them. I'm going to do that and kind of explain, talk through the scenes, of course, but then pause and also explain why I think each scene was justified to be in the movie. So anyways, and then my plan is I'm going to skip 5 and 6 for right now. I'm going to do them next winter, next January and February, because those are the months that kind of, when they were hot back in their days. I'm going to do Scream 7 in August, which is my birthday month. I feel like that seems right. So it should be exciting. So maybe I'll release the Scream 7 audio commentary to the public too. But I hope people enjoy hearing me talk about Scream 3. I hope people subscribe to the Patreon and hear the other audio commentaries. You can subscribe at the lowest tier to get all of the audio commentaries. I've done, let's see, The Craft, Final Destination, Scary Movie, I Know What You Did Last Summer, Halloween H2O, A Nightmare on Elm Street, Halloween, Buffy the Vampire Slayer. It's the musical episode Once More with Feeling, Scream 1, Scream 2, Scream 3, and soon to be Scream 4 deleted scenes, Scream 4 itself, and onward. So yeah, I actually really like doing the audio commentaries. I hope people enjoy this too. So, but all right, well, without further ado, I guess I should press play and we should get on with it, right? So everyone, please subscribe at Patreon to listen to more audio commentaries like this. And if you're not, just please enjoy this one that I'm releasing out to everybody. This is, again, my heart and soul is Scream 3, and I want everyone to love it as much as I do, or at least see what I see in it. So let's do it. So since the idea is to listen to this in full with the movie, there will not be any ads from here on out whenever I press play. So, but I will say this. Okay, so if you're new to the audio commentaries, you can listen to it either way. You can listen to it like once, just as a regular podcast. Like in your mind, you can probably imagine the scenes as I'm talking about them, or you can actually sit down, sync up the movie with what I'm saying. I would, if I had to like take a preference, I would say do that just because it's fun and you get to kind of like live it, like I'm sitting there, on the couch with you talking and, being annoying. So, okay, let us do this now. I'm at 000 with Scream 3. I'm going to count down 3, 2, 1, and we're all going to hit play if you're listening to sync it up. If you're listening just in your car, and just hang in there. So, okay, 3, 2, 1, here we go. Play. Okay, Dimension logo, baby. Here we go. So it's so fun right now because like I also associate the Scream movies with like the weather outside, and I always associate them with Christmas time and the snow, and it's actually snowing outside, so that's wonderful. And there's the Hollywood sign. Okay, Wes Craven is so fucking brilliant. He's telling a story about Hollywood, and we literally start out with the Hollywood sign and a landscape of the mountains and the highway and just how busy it is and like this environment. It's so sinking smart of him to do that. Like also, it's just like making a statement, like kind of leading the audience to where you're going with things. Like with Scream 2, we had the theater, you know, it's wonderful. So, and there's our hero from Scream 2, Cotton Weary, with his, you know, all white suit. So, how fucking ballsy of it was Scream 3 to start out not only with a man as the opening, right, but not only a survivor, but the fucking person who was the hero at the end of Scream 2 who saved Sidney from Mrs. Loomis and who Sidney handed off the mic to be the public-facing person of this. He was such an important figure in Scream 2. And he's such an important figure in the mythology of Scream and Maureen Prescott, right? He was the one that Sidney wrongly accused of murdering her mother back in the day. He was the one sleeping with Maureen Prescott. And again, this is a movie basically about Maureen Prescott's life and backstory. So what a beautiful place to start, other than with Cotton Weary, kind of where her life ended, right? Because Maureen had sex with Cotton right before she was murdered. So it's like we're kind of starting at the end as the beginning as we go into Maureen Prescott's life. So yeah. And also just, it's so interesting. Like, you know, and I actually really like this phone call. I will say, if you know, actually one day I'm going to do the Scream 3 assembly cut as an audio commentary. That would be a fucking banger of an episode. So maybe I'll release that to the public too. If you need a copy of the assembly cut, please feel free to message me. But I love this scene. I really do. Also, you know, look how quick Wes gets to the point, right? We're 2 minutes in and boom, you know, the Ghostface voice is back. And I remember like Wes talking about this, like they wanted with this opening scene, they wanted to have like, they wanted to go back to the game that Ghostface played with Casey in Scream 1. Also, you know, for Scream not emphasizing sex, like, you know, and also horror having the bad reputation of being like sex obsessed and like showing naked bodies. We do see a woman in the shower, but that links up with the Stab 3 script later on with Candy. Hang on, let me get some clothes, right? Also, how fucking genius! First of all, okay, this shot of Liev holding with the phone and like the lights and the cars behind him, it's so nicely lit. It's so scarily lit. It's great direction, great visuals. I love the photography here, but I love the fact that like Ghostface calls Cotton, and immediately he has a reason for calling him. He has a reason for Cotton to be the opening victim, not just for the Stab 3 reason we learn later, but because he is after Sidney. He wants to know if he knows where she is. I don't think Roman actually thinks that Cotton knows where she is, but it's worth a shot, right? And it's also worth to taunt him about, right? So anyways, really nice. Also, you know, again, I know that Scream 2 is the right answer when it comes to what is Wes Craven's best directed film. But if I had a vote, I would vote for Scream 3 because like even just like look at choices like this. I'm gonna say this the entire commentary, but like look at the choices of Cotton and the chaos with him and the loud action. You know, he's driving crazily in the streets of LA, and then we go to Quiet Christine. That is like filmmaking 101, like to show a contrast and kind of build suspense. Like, you know, we know something's wrong with Christine, but she doesn't. And like, it's so quiet here. Yet with Cotton, it's so loud and noisy because he actually knows what's going on. It's so cool. Also, you know, great shot here of like panning in and showing like, okay, Roman is here. He did his homework. He's really trying. Also, you know, something that the later Scream films have not done. I don't know about Scream 7 yet because we haven't seen it. Oh, look, Stab 2 reference right there on the bus. Woohoo, I love it. But you know, we actually get a huge view of fucking Los Angeles just in this fucking opening scene. We cover so much ground, so many different landmarks. It's so cool, you know. So, Kelly Rutherford. You know, so I actually, you know, the thing is, I've never actually watched Gossip Girl, but I know about her from Gossip Girl. I know that she's famous from it. My sister watched it, and so every time we watch it, she's like, I can't take her seriously. So this shot of Christine and her feet, my fucking God. Wes Craven and his visuals, right? He could have had it on Christine's face as she walks. No, it's her feet because there's water on her feet that she's going to slip on eventually. But also just like, how scary is it? Like when you're, you know, I feel like that's an interesting way to show that you're home alone and you heard a weird noise and you're walking. Like that is very artistic. It's so cool, right? So Anyways, and also that's kind of the room where she ends up dying, right? So isn't it nice that Wes Craven shows us that he, the room where a lot of the action is going to take place, where the climax of the scene takes place before it happens. Like that is what you do with filmmaking. You don't just plop us into some weird location. It's all about exercise. It's all about show, not tell. And Wes shows, not tell. Also, Cotton's voice and having the voice changer, like to lull her into submission, beautiful. Boom, boom, boom. Ah! So again, great editing, it creates energy and suspense and adrenaline. And that's the one thing I love about Scream 3 that I don't think people truly get is the adrenaline of this movie. And it comes from the direction, it comes from the editing, and then you have all of the richness of the storytelling. Love the shot of Christine from below her, where we see the skylight. Again, great choice by Wes Craven to kind of show the intensity of the scene. Like we're right next to her beating heart, as she's scared shitless. Also, this moment with Ghostface and Christine, very underrated. Like right here, I got your insides out. Rip your insides out. I mess up the quote. Sorry. To open the fucking door, Christine, with a knife coming through the door. Like that is fucking scary as shit. That is like so terrifying. That's really good stuff. So again, the people who say that Scream 3 isn't scary, fuck you. You can get off my lawn. And again, here we just had a really intense sequence, and now look, the roles have switched, right? So before, Cotton was the chaos, Christine was the quiet. Now it's the opposite. Cotton is the one with the quiet build up. Christine just had the chaos. So again, it's all about balance. So anyways, I was trying to say way back a couple of minutes ago that in the assembly cut, Cotton has a really, really nice phone call. It's longer, it's more extended. I kind of wish that they included some footage from the assembly cut here just to prop it up. There were some good horror movie name titles dropped in it. I wish that they would have kept the car going a little bit longer with the phone call, but whatever. So this part with Cotton on the TV. Love this because it's also, you want to talk about, so people, another pet peeve of mine is when people say that Scream 3 is badly written or the problem is the screenplay. No, it's fucking not. The problem is you. So, Cotton, he's on the screen. We're with Cotton in the flesh. We're with the real human being, right? But we also see Cotton, the TV personality, on screen on the media, and he is lecturing about bad driving and the epidemic of all these car crashes. Yet that was a sin that he just committed, right? So that is kind of the theme of Scream 3 is the people behind the media committing the sins that they pretend not to do, that they lecture people about through their media. Does that make sense? This kind of extends to in the modern world, right? Everyone lectures about equality of the sexes and, Me Too and stuff. Yet behind the scenes, they're doing those dirty deeds, right? So right there, Scream 3 is setting up the thesis of its fucking whole thing, right? Of its whole narrative, of its whole story. It's right there. Also, the shot of Cotton putting his hand up to the door with all the knife stabs. So haunting, right? So visually striking. Again, thank you, Wes Craven. MVP, best directed Scream film. Don't give a shit. Also, I love that Ghostface, Roman, he really truly makes the characters not trust each other in a way that is really fresh and invigorating. And that's kind of what that's what the Ghostface voice changer in Scream 3 does. This, the super AI version that we see here. It brings out so many new things in the Scream formula. It tricks the characters, into believing things that aren't true, but also makes them distrust each other, and it also taunts them, right? And also Christine's amazing scream right there. But so some people say that this is a mid opening just because it's not as long as the others, and the violence is just a little bit tamer. I think it's a solid opening. I think it's wonderful. I think it's very much it's a very classy opening, I think. Also, this ending with Cotton is so epic. The stabs, Liev with the blood all over the white, the blood on the mask of Ghostface, Ghostface talking to Cotton here. It really feels like this is the end. This is the final chapter. Also, if he was stabbed in the head, stabbed in the chest, who knows? Also, that amazing logo. Jesus Christ, it goes so hard. And here we are with Sydney. We're showing, not telling. So in the Scream 2 audio commentary, I talked about how I think her opening scenes in the original trilogy are all pretty flawless, but they get better each time. And I fucking love this opening sequence with Sydney in her house. And again, to get that ending and to get the impact of the ending, we need to set it up here. And not only are we setting up the ending here, but we're showing what Sydney's life is like. We're showing, what she does on a daily, on a normal day. It's also pretty. It's also sad. It's haunting. We carry through a lot of what we felt at the end of Scream 2, even though it's not as emotionally intense. We see the Fall of Troy poster, Sydney's play. And I assume there's, that's a picture of Sydney and Maureen or Sydney and Neil. But, I just love this opening scene. Again, it's just so adult. It's so classy. There's no fucking, bad therapy scene. There's no bullshit Halloween party. There's no bowling alley. So it's just, it's such an adult scene. And like, also, don't underestimate what Nev brings to this. Like, she brings a very grounded view of Sydney too. Also the details here on the phone, Dad, Center, Dewey, police, fire, love it. And we find out like what Sydney's job is. Like, see, this scene is like the perfect example of showing, not telling, showing where Sydney lives, how she lives, what her mental state is, showing what she does all day, her job, why she's doing that job. She's doing this job because she's helping people who experience trauma like her. This is how you do storytelling. This is how you write. This is how you direct. This is how you make a fucking story. And here we are. And then we end at this big kind of long shot of Sydney sitting in her house. It's just like, oh, we showed you all this. Boom, here's the portrait of Sydney's life. And now we get to Gail Weathers, her opening at the college, giving the speech. Break the rules. Stop at nothing. Do everything you have. Hate you. Only way to get the story, the facts, and the fame. So, and again, we see Gail as this bigger celebrity now. She's grown. But also, with this question that David Arquette's brother asked, I believe. It's David's brother, not cousin, right? Well, tell me, Miss Weathers, was it worth it? And that look that Gail gives, it's just like, is it direct? Yes. But is it okay? It's okay to be direct. It's okay to be kind of overt with your messaging when the messaging is good. And also that just sets up Gail's entire, journey here from, even in this place where she is still the evolved Gail from Scream 1 to 2 to 3. We still see the human Gail at the end of Scream 2 here in Scream 3. But she becomes even more so, like, in terms of, she irons out her morals and her place in the world by the end of the movie. Also, again, great storytelling. Like, we are introduced to this new character, and it becomes about Cotton. It becomes about Sydney, and he's bringing Gail into it. Like, and he's pushing the story forward by giving us new information. Again, this is how you write a fucking movie, people. And we get another mention of Gail with her Pulitzer, what she's always wanted, carrying over from Scream 3. Oh my God, that's Maureen Prescott. That's Sydney Prescott's mother. Also, great shot of Gail holding the picture from over Kincaid's shoulder, and we see her. We don't see his face. We see the picture. So great. Also, this is a very underrated scene of Sydney hearing the news about Cotton. Again, how can you say she's not the main character? For the first 15 minutes, we've seen she's literally had 2 scenes. Like, we're curating the story of her life and setting up her final arc. And again, this is what the killer wanted. This is what Roman wanted. He wanted Sydney to find out this news and be affected by it. And she was, right? And also Nev's beautiful acting. It's just like, you see it in her eyes, her face is beautiful. Again, and now here we go. Another scene transition to Sunrise Studios. Wes is showing us, not telling us. We're seeing the Stab 3 poster. It's just like, it's kind of like the Woodsboro book, right? That Gail wrote in Scream 2. It's unmistakable. We all know that Stab 3 banner. We all know the Stab 3 Return to Woodsboro logo that we see here. And just showing like the setting and the environment, like, it feels so rich. It feels so fulfilled. It feels so full. It feels like real cinema. And I don't mean to keep dogging on Scream 6, but like, we never even saw the book that Gail wrote about Sam that drove so much of the plot. Yet with Scream 3 and Scream 2, we see so much of like the books and the stab of it all. It's so good. And the introduction to our 2 villains here, Roman Bridger and John Milton. One Ghostface, one scumbag. He was making a movie called Stab. He was stabbed. Also, the Prescott mailbox, chef's kiss. I think Scream 3 actually has a really great male cast. Look at this. You have David Arquette, Patrick Dempsey, Scott Foley, Lance Henriksen, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Also, in terms of like, giving like the new cast its time, I actually think that Scream 3, I know that like a lot of people don't like the Stab 3 cast compared to the Scream 2 cast. That's an unfair bar. Compare this cast to the Scream 6 cast. Case in point. But like, I actually don't mind these characters. I think it's okay that they each represent something about the industry, a failing about the industry, or an aspect of the industry. You have the ingenue who's never been in a movie before, who was plucked out because she fucked the producer. You have the African American actor who is taking low jobs because because those are the options. You have the aging woman who is frustrated that she's playing so much younger than her and being objectified. You have the douchey stud, and what's his name? Tom. I used to hate Tom. I used to hate these characters, and then Radio Silence made films. I'm like, oh, they aren't so bad. But like, the thing is, you don't have to love them as human beings. Like, we don't need to know where Tyson went to elementary school and what Angelina's favorite Campbell's soup is. It's about more so just like what they represent in the larger scheme of what Hollywood is. It's brilliant. Don't care. Fuck off. So here we are, and Gale Weathers is seeing Woodsboro for the first time, and we're still seeing Woodsboro, but we're not seeing the full Woodsboro. They're saving that for Sydney. Again, brilliant, smart. And the introduction of one of the greatest characters of all time, the best non-trio character, in my opinion, Jennifer fucking Jolie. Here we fucking go. Your mind. Oh, that would explain my constant headaches. Their duo is probably the best Scream duo in the franchise. Gale and Dewey are pretty strong too, but they're also a couple, so it makes things hard. But so some people criticize Courtney Cox's acting here, but I'll get into that into a second. She's such a complex character. Parker Posey never misses. So depth and range. Also watch this moment, and there's our drop. Gale, Dewey. So Jennifer and Gale both said Dewey at the same time. Well, Gale said it. Jennifer was mimicking because she's that committed to playing Gale Weathers, right? And look at that smirk she has. Like, she walks to Dewey. Also, just how interesting is it to make Jennifer Jolie a character in the first place? Not only to just as a funny comedic relief and a representation of Hollywood, but also for Gale to be presented with an old version of her that she's literally looking at the Gale Weathers of 1996. And she's confronting that after she's gone through so much change over Scream 1 to 2 to 3. She's not that person anymore. And to see what she was, I think that's important for her. It's on a psychological level. And like, also, I love that we get the catch up here with Gale and Dewey, and we kind of see where they are, where they were left. And this is, I love them in Scream 2, but I think Gale and Dewey in Scream 3 are the ultimate horror couple. So some people don't like Courtney Cox's acting here. I'm looking at you, Mark Karim, but the thing is, some people say that she's playing Monica in this scene. I disagree. This is probably one of her weaker scenes, I will probably grant you, but like, I love Gale in Scream 3. I used, before everyone, this was another common criticism of 3, was that like people said that she was not the Gale Weathers that we knew, that she wasn't as cunning as she was. Well, of course she's not. She grew from 1 to 2 to 3. Do you want Scream 2 to mean nothing? Do you want her just to revert and just be a fucking bitch again? No, you don't. You want her to grow, and we see the growth here. We see the human being. And the thing that I love about Courtney Cox here is like, she's kind of like objectively, she is objectively the backbone of this movie. Like, you have Nev Campbell doing all the drama work, you have Parker Posey doing all the comedic work, and Courtney Cox kind of keeps the movie in line with the plot and the backstory and keeping it like sturdy and solid. And like, the thing about Courtney Cox is, I actually don't think that it's an especially funny performance. I think it's actually more drama than it is comedy. I think people just say that because she's with Jennifer a lot, which again, how dumb is your opinion if you think like, oh, well, Jennifer's funny, that must mean Gale is funny. Like, there's nothing about Gale in Scream 3 that's overly campy or funny, other than her bangs. So again, your problem, not mine. Anyways, no, I just find Courtney Cox to be so moving here. And there's something about like the consistency of her performance here that really just like moves me. And even though I know like Scream 2 Gale is the best Gale, there have been times where I actually look at Gale in Scream 3 and I think, all three of the trio are at their best in Scream 3, even Gale, even though she can't be because Scream 2 is better than Scream 3. But you know what I mean? Like, Scream 2 is the ultimate. It probably won't ever be beaten. But I think that she's so good in Scream 3. I love Gale in Scream 3. So anyways, I love that now that we see Sydney's house at nighttime, dark, scary, and we get the return of Neil Prescott. Like, this is the continuity we want to see in Scream movies. The consistency with like the lore. Also, like, the thing about Sidney Prescott in Scream 3 is every single scene that she has is so focused on her character arc, and like it's all about, her trauma, her mother, her wrestling with the past, and her trying to outsmart the killer. Like, it's every single scene she has can be attributed to one of those four things. Everything is so focused. And this is one of the best scenes. I mean, all of the scenes with Sidney in Scream 3 are the best, but this is such an amazing moment. That smile, that's the idea. Psychos can't get what they can't find. Yeah, and we've seen Sydney be a hermit now for 3 scenes. This is her 3rd scene in Scream 3. Again, and you say she's not the lead, fuck you. But she, we've seen it all. So when she says that, it hits hard because we've seen her live alone and work remotely and be isolated. Oh, look, there's the iconic photograph of Sydney and Maureen. Oh my God. And she's sitting on the couch like she did in Scream 1. Oh my God. Whenever she got the first phone call. So, again, see, that's how you do an homage. Like, I would even, like, sometimes I forget that that's an homage to Scream 1 just because, like, this is so different than what they do in Scream 1, but it's still spiritually there. And I love that we're zooming in on Maureen's face because the whole movie is about Maureen, right? This is such a terrifying scene. I would say that this is probably the scariest scene in any Scream movie. It's not the type of like scare that's like, a jump scare. It's like the terrifying, like, visual, like whenever Maureen comes up to the window and like right there, like she's like just looking at she's staring into your soul. It's so frightening. The visual of like, her hair, it's like everyone's worst nightmare, in a way. She's kind of ghostly, like a monster. It's just like, so good. But like also we're getting a peek into Sydney's head, into her psychology. Everything you touch, Sid, dies. You're poison. You're just like me. That's consistent with the Scream 1. I'm like the bad seed or something. Also her nails going down on the window, and like the blood staining the window. Brilliant, Wes Craven. Brilliant. Scary, terrifying, original. Thank you. And then what does Maureen turn into? She turns into Ghostface. Do you see the psychological link that Sydney has between her mother and Ghostface? That's what wakes her up. And so we're already planting the seeds that Sydney isn't like in the best psychological state. Also, look at this acting from Neve Campbell. Whenever she was approaching the window, but also right here, like it's so strong. And poor Cherokee. I love Cherokee. So. But yeah, that's truly an amazing scene. Some people didn't like it. That scene was controversial for years, which for stupid reasons. Like now, people look at the Sam. People kind of forgave the Sam stuff, and I guess had to retroactively forgive that. Again, back then, people were looking for reasons to hate on Scream 3, and they pointed to this saying, "Oh, this just doesn't feel like Scream." Okay, so do you want Scream to be the same thing every time? Do you want it to be boring? It's just like it's so frustrating to have these conversations sometimes. Like I don't think that there was ever a true, genuine, like real reason to dislike that scene. It's also well executed and well acted and well directed, and it's fucking scary as shit. So again, like, what the fuck is your problem? So, again, Wes Craven is building up the location of this set piece. He's not just plopping us in, being like, "Oh, here you go." We're seeing the rooms, we're seeing how the office is set up, and we're building suspense. So, I don't love the Tyson gag here, or even this conversation. It's just okay, but yeah, I don't. So this line in particular, makeup, you could use it. I don't like that. That's hard for me to defend. It's kind of a badly written line, but whatever. It's okay. So here we are with Jenny McCarthy, and I have to say, she's also something that people made fun of about this movie, that they think she's a bad actress. I don't think that. I think that she actually gives a really good performance here. I like Sarah Darling. I think, this is a shorter phone call than we get with CC Cooper in Scream 2. Yet I feel like we get so much of Sarah Darling. Also hilarious that she drops Roman's trophy and the head breaks off. We've never had a decapitated Ghostface before. That kind of links into Randy's rules about decapitation or blown up. And look who it is. It's Roman Bridger, our king. So, but even like, I'm just going to point out here before I go on more about Jenny. Like, I love even like the fact that there's that green like orb thing in the background. Little stuff like that makes um Scream 3 really scary when Wes had studio constraints on him because of the culture and because of Columbine. Like it's just spooky. It adds to the fear factor. I love Sarah Darling. I think that she is so full of spunk and personality. Like, it's unmistakable when you walk away from this scene to not know who she is or get a sense of her vibe and what makes her distinctive and unique. And it's her sass. She's so sassy. Yet there's commentary about sexism in the industry, which again connects to Maureen Prescott and what she experienced in the 70s, 80s, whatever it was. So, the fact that like she is, 35 playing a 21-year-old and that she is being exploited in the shower, and also questioning the logic. Like, if my boyfriend just died, why am I showering other than to exploit me? Like, she's talking about these things in the industry that are so smart. Also, I love the Stab 3 poster in the behind her. Also, this is just a nice phone call and also smart of Roman. Like, he doesn't even have to use the voice changer, right? He's just talking to her himself. Again, he's he's actually literally acting out his own movie, right? He talks about making a movie. He's making his movie. He's actually like, he's there with his victim, going through the set piece. It's kind of very meta. Has there been another goddamn rewrite? Obviously, an allusion to all of the rewrites that have gone on in the Wes Craven era of Scream that are annoying. My movie, and it's called Sarah Gets Skewered Like a Fucking Pig. Ha 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 ha. Still in character. Sarah. Yeah. Oh, a really awesome line. Again, they're the phone calls in Scream 3 I think are elite. Just like, they are original enough. They are they all have like some kind of bite sting to them, where it's like, oh shit, like the Ghostface is not fucking around. Like, there's some scary visual lines in there, intimidating stuff. So anyways, wonderful phone call, original phone call. Like, I feel like fresh, it's just like, unexpected. Like, that's how I see it. Also, this set piece is so stinking smart, so cool. A great example of what you can do in the Hollywood setting. And Scream 3 playing with its theme is like, in some ways she's kind of smart, right? You would want to blend in, like, the robes are big and flowy. You can easily hide in them, and stuff. But at the same time, it's also the flip side is the killer is there. So it's so smart. Also, just imagine, like, this idea of an actor being surrounded in the Ghostface robes and the Ghostface masks only to then be killed by Ghostface. It's brilliant. So this was actually an idea that they were going to use in Halloween H2O, I was told, and they instead saved it for Scream 3. I'm so glad that they did. Also, just the visuals of like Ghostface's mask popping out and the knife, scary, and the boot. We have a boot mention. We missed the boots. So, also we're seeing more sides of Hollywood. We're seeing the fake knife, we're seeing the prop knife, we're seeing like, all this stuff that go in that's part of movie making. And again, like, I think this is like the greatest action in the world? Probably not. But I think it's fine. Like, and again, I like, Scream 3 to me is about the mystery and about the vibes of Hollywood and about the story and the characters. And I think that Wes made that sequence somewhat as exciting as it could have been. And I also like the fact that she's stabbed, that she's punched and then stabbed. There's something kind of poetic. It's just like, okay, we're good. We're done. Not everything has to be fucking Terrifier 3 or 7 or whatever that movie is. So, one of the things I talk about often on the podcast, like just as an illusion where I don't really get to talk about the dialogue, is like this one. I love the scene with Gale and Dewey. Again, Scream 3 is such an adult movie. There are so many instances where there are two adults, Sydney and Neil, Sydney and Kincaid, Gale and Dewey, sitting, talking about themselves, talking about their past, talking about their, their feelings. This is something you don't see in dumbed down slashers. And this is amazing. Great performance by Courtney, great performance by Dewey. They talk about themselves and their stuff, and then they move into what Gil and Dewey are about to talk about, which is the fact that he took her file, and we're also learning what happened to them, between Scream 2 and 3, as opposed to being told, show not tell. They're kind of showing here what happened, not explicitly saying, oh, I was with Dewey here and then I left here because of this, blah, blah, blah. It's all coming out in their discussion and what they assume about each other. So all of this is actually not about you. you know. So, and the thing about like Scream 3, Gale and Dewey is like, Dewey is kind of on to Gale's shtick, and as Gale kind of becomes more humble as a person, they're on more of a level playing field when they banter, and I think that comes out here. Again, like scenes like this are exciting, where we're learning like mysterious events that have happened off screen. David gets this moment. Gale gets a moment in Jennifer's house, which I will talk about when we get there, to do this. We kind of catch up the audience on events that happen off screen. Scenes like this are hard to do. They can go into like monologue-y, if not directed well. And I think both of them in Scream 3 are done to perfection here. Jennifer. So, and again, we're going to see like, the Jennifer house before we go into the fax machine sequence that everybody hates. And even it's not my favorite, but yeah. So here we are. I love the differences in cars. It also just shows like the Hollywoodification of Gale Weathers. Like that's part of the thing too. Not only is Gale a more humble human being and like a softer person than she used to be, but she's also been affected by her culture. She is kind of a chameleon. She absorbs the environment that she's in. A year and a half, someone's going to pay for this. Like, she's so ridiculous, but it's so funny. Also, Gale and Jennifer are basically wearing like kind of mirroring each other with the outfits. Like Gale wears the classier, more luxury, real brand, and Jennifer has like the knockoff, like, the necklace, the purple shirt, even like the way their hair is done, it feels kind of spiritually similar. Who gets killed third? Also, I just love that, like, even with stuff like this, like scenes like this, which, and I wouldn't put this in the top half of like Scream 3 scenes. This is like in the bottom half for sure. But it's just like still, we're getting so much more of Stab and the lore and the world of Scream than we would ever get, in the way that Scream 5 and 6 did things, So I love Parker Posey's just commitment to being this campy, delusional character. She's so good. So, you live here with her? Oh my God. So again, like we're doing character work as we walk through the setting that will then be for the fax machine. So, and I think that the stuff like this is like why Dewey in Scream 3 is kind of the best Dewey, I think, is like we're really seeing and loving with him and like seeing how he talks and what he's saying and how he's interacting with Gale. And I love that Gale here, like Dewey is the one with the power here. This is Dewey's turf. And Gale's coming into it and she feels so insecure by Jennifer, his connection with Jennifer, the fact that he lives with her. It's all really good stuff. So I know that I kind of defended all of the Stab 3 cast, and I stand by that. Steven Stone is probably my least favorite character in Scream 3. I don't really get anything from him. Like, see, I can love Scream 3 and defend it with every fiber of my being, but I can still acknowledge the flaws. Steven Stone, for me, I think he's just okay. But I love that Wes actually gives him a scene to actually show a little bit of himself, as opposed to other things. But again, rich fucking storytelling. We start out with the photographs of Maureen Prescott. We're seeing the photographs and like absorbing like, ooh, this is the starting point of this scene. This is the thesis of this scene. This is what we're going to be talking about in this scene. That's the first shot we see of this scene with Kincaid and Wallace. I love Patrick Dempsey in this role so much. And again, I wish he would have been Sydney's husband in Scream 7. Could have, should have. I think that Patrick Dempsey does a lot in this first act, especially to anchor the film dramatically when Sydney is still in hiding. I think that he contributes so much to Scream 3 here at the beginning, but also just throughout as a suspect, as the detective, as an interesting man in the Scream world, as an interesting supporting character, as an interesting new character. He completely carries his weight, and I love it. So. And also, again, like this is a good scene that gives us a lot of plot, and like this is the best part of Wes Craven is like this page turning aspect, right? And we don't know which one the killer read, it's just like, ooh, what happens next? I want to see, I want to keep going. So, to look at a Scream movie, sometimes you have to look at it as though it is a tale of how the killers. It's a tale of the killer, right? Where the best Scream films succeed or fail are based on like how does the killer operate the story and how do they put on a performance for the other characters. And, this is a great example of that for Roman. Also, Roman kind of like putting himself out there as a suspect to then take himself off the list, to be more covert and kind of carry out his plan and execute it more effectively is very smart. While Sydney's still in hiding too, Okay, so one thing I want to talk about real quick before we get to Laura is how Roman got Sydney's phone number. So I believe that if you remember, Jennifer took Dewey's phone earlier, and we saw Roman on the set with John Milton. I think that Roman, because they were sleeping together, they had this familiarity. I bet Roman asked Jennifer for Dewey's phone, and he got the number that way. That's how I think it all happened. It's never explicitly said in the film. And I guess, Zach Sherry one time called me out and said, well, that's just your headcanon. That may be just my headcanon, but it works and it explains it. So whatever. But again, I like that, it's a lore and it's mystery and it's all part of this, it's all part of this big, dense movie. It's so great. And that's where a comedy works, I think. So, this is a really good example of Scream 3. It's not doing scary movie. It's like, dramatic scene, punchline. Wonderful. So I think this is the second best phone call in the franchise. So, okay, Drew Barrymore aside, you have Nev's 2 phone calls in Scream 3, the station and this. This is such a smart scene, so psychological. We're hearing Maureen's voice, and how traumatizing for Sydney to relive that. Again, it's on point. This is a focused story for Sydney. It's about her trauma with her mother and her unanswered questions. Also, how sick is that of Roman to do this to Sydney? Amazing work by Neve Campbell. I think it's one of her best acted scenes. Look at her eyes. Look how intense it is. Look at the tears starting to swell up and the confusion. Now she kicks into high gear. And look how Wes keeps the shot so close on Nev's face. We're living this with her, where a director places the mise-en-scène communicates a lot of like the expression of what the movie is doing and what they want us to feel. And we're feeling Sydney's life right now. We're feeling it so intensely. And I love that Roman is actually, again, orchestrating it so much that he is showing Sydney what is happening. He is, if she is the heroine of his movie that he's making, he's living it with her. He's directly taunting her. He's not letting her find out some other way. Also, I just love this shot of Sydney goes right into fighter mode, but I love this shot of her with the gun wearing the red outfit. It ends the scene right here. Boom, boom, boom. Her hair's in her face. It's just like she's upset. Like, it's wonderful. So, yeah, I just love that phone call so much. So wonderful. So there was a longer version of this scene in the assembly cut, and I kind of, again, like, I love Scream 3. I love that scene. I think it's a really concise, finely tuned scene, perfectly directed, perfectly acted, perfectly written. You want to talk about the writing in that scene? That scene is emotionally daring in ways that, like, people only wish they could do today. So also, there's just something so meta about this scene, right? About Tom actually like stating the scenes in the Stab 3 script, and those are the scenes that we literally see. We see Sydney going into the Prescott house flashback. I also just kind of love the concept of him ripping up the pages and throwing them. Again, the visual of it, but also just like the movie's over, kaboom, kaboom, right? Again, we're not supposed to. I don't think that we're supposed to be best friends with the Stab 3 cast. They're here to be killed, and they're here for a reason. They're here to represent something about Hollywood. Jennifer is the exception because she is playing Gail Weathers, and she's in this weird threesome love triangle with Gail and Dewey. Anyways, so going off of that, there's a version of the Laura phone call that's in the assembly cut where it's really painful. It's like probably like 2 or 3 minutes longer. It's excellent. I wish that they could have included that. Neve is so good in it. It's devastating. There's a really nice quote about the hero and the villain being 2 sides of the same coin or something, kind of leading into the brother sister aspect. That's my biggest regret about the assembly cut, that should have been absolutely in the film. But I like the scene that we have. It's still an A+ scene. It's just a longer version of it would have been even more impactful. So this scene with Gale Weathers is so strong. You know, how can you say that this is Gale Weathers' worst outing when we literally get to peek into her head, into her psychology? Like this idea of Gale, this almost kind of mirrors Sydney in Scream 1 of like listening to the cheerleaders talk badly about her in the bathroom stall, right? Where she, you know, no one knows that she's there, but she can hear everything that they're saying about her. You know, cruel, obsessive, and annoying. Little girl inside, you know, she's seeing what these people actually think about her and she's reacting to it. That's some deep shit, you know. Underrated exclamation point. So, and people love to hate on Courtney Cox's clothes in Scream 3. I actually like this look. I love the red pants. It's very 2000s. I actually like the sweater too. So, you know, whatever. My mom would say that the sweater makes her bangs look worse. Went for mom. So, also, this is the first big group set piece that we've had. That is in the finale, so it's very cool. So this is the scene that I was alluding to earlier about Courtney kind of catching up the audience on Roman was released. It wasn't him. It was a burner phone. No one can track it. And Maureen Prescott. No one has any idea where she went or what she did in these years of her life. It's so spooky. Even like the lighting here is spooky. And like this type of scene is really hard to do. In fact, if I was like picking a moment for Courtney's like Oscar clip, I would probably pick this one just because like she's so intense. She's keeping us engaged. Like she is keeping this scene afloat basically on her own, and she's doing a lot of work for the movie to tell the story. And she's doing it in a way that we're going to remember these details. Like scenes like this are so hard for actors to do, and she fucking hits it out of the park. And it's also just setting up like, you know, the details that will come into fruition later. I mean, Scream 3 is such a sprawling, epic story, and there's so much going on, right? You have the Sydney storyline, you have the Maureen Prescott backstory, you have the Stab 3 cast, and they all kind of intersect in the finale to make the perfect bow. I love that, you know, Gale and Dewey are again working together. This is them at their best. I like Scream 2. In that commentary, I mentioned it, but like Dewey isn't just being passive; he's helping Gale solve the mystery. Again, great use of Dewey, not just, you know, whatever. So. Also, really smart too. Use of the voice changer is to go right to Dewey of Wes. You know, keep us on our toes. Because we were just with Dewey, and he said, "I need to make some calls." Like, you know, we're already primed to have Dewey in our heads and like be, you know, not suspecting that something's gonna happen. I mean, I guess we could because like, you know, a character's by himself. But again, you know, also just like in this movie's feminism is so interesting. Like we're going for the big bulky bodyguard. Like that's who Roman goes after. Just think about that. Think about the balls of that. You know, as opposed to like other Ghostface killers. You know, Roman isn't helping people survive. He's literally taking out the biggest and the best, the strongest person to make everybody else more vulnerable. Really, really smart. I don't love. So this is like the beginning of the fax machine where it's kind of like it's not my favorite part of Scream 3. It's probably my least favorite sequence, but it's fine. So, you know, again, I don't like the frying pan. I think that's kind of goofy. It's just like, what, Wes, you're making my job harder as a Scream 3 defender. But I love how Ghostface slinks away. The body language, the visuals of that. It's so spooky. And here we are officially like in the fax machine proper. You know, even though I think the fax machine is a logically flawed sequence, I think it is so well directed, well acted by Courtney and Parker Posey. Like Courtney in the first half, Parker in the second half. But like what Wes does with the directing here is so interesting. Like just, you know, it's so spooky. It's so suspenseful. It creates a lot of adrenaline. It's also just fun. You know, my producer TJ, he'll say things like, "Oh, it's just fun. It's fun." This is just fun. It is fun. It's a fun time. Also, this is what I do love this part though, with Steven Stone walking in all bloodied and the knife in his back. So spooky. And Dewey's walking toward him. The lights kind of coming in and out of the characters here as they walk toward the door. Very scary shit. And having a character collapse in front of you, that's scary. That's really well done, I think. The knife in the back is a very nice visual too with the blood. Yeah. So, you know, I think that like, you know, if you criticize Scream 3 as being too comedic, you could probably point at this scene just because it's a very Jennifer driven scene and it's kind of ridiculous and the logic is flawed. So again, I think that like the people who say Scream 3 is too comedic, they think about just this scene and nothing else. It's the facts. So again, like, you know, how is the fax machine working when the lights are out? unless if he's down there at the circuit breaker and he's taken off like. But no, all the electricity would be out of the room, not just the lights. So, what are you gonna do? And also, how did Roman know that those specific people would be there? How did? What if Gale didn't want to go? You know. But at the same time, it's a fun sequence. It's a fun moment. It's a fun little part of the Hollywood theme, you know. And it goes by so fast, you don't even really know it's happening. So if we're going to, you know, hold this to account, then we better be holding Scream 6 to account. I'm just saying. Jennifer Gale. But like again, like Wes makes it scary with no lights. You know, the pool light kind of reflecting on them. You know, all of the chaos. I want to know what happens. Wait for the fucking movie. I low key have a crush on Tom Prince. He used to be one of my least favorite characters, but I find him so fucking sexy. He's tall, dark, cocky. I really want to date him. Whoever smells the gas. So there's a frame of Tom that was used in the trailer that's in the assembly cut that isn't in the final movie. I wish they would have kept in. It's of him with the flame, and he looks up at, like, you know, spooked faced, and then it explodes. I wish that would have been in, just because I really like the visual of it, but also, like, this is really hard. This is kind of goofy of them falling. I mean, I'm just shrugging my shoulders, whatever. I'm just waiting for the love triangle to take center stage, and like I'm just trying to focus on the good character work here. So, but I like the explosion. I think it's actually a really cool way to kill somebody. Also, it's very Hollywood. If you're doing a movie where the central theme is Hollywood, you know, what's more Hollywood than a big fucking action explosion, you know, where a whole house blows up, you know? It's very on point for the theme. And it's also just an original kill. So it's very cool. I like it. Also, Ghostface coming out behind Gale, really smart, very spooky. Also, I love that Dewey saves her. You know, it's okay for Gale to save Dewey to save Gale. You know, they have a reciprocal relationship, and you know, I don't think it makes Gale any less of a badass bitch for her to be saved. It's part, you know, this is just part of being human, and also it's just part of their love story too. That they save each other, that they're there for each other. You know, and I also just love that's kind of like this is like the final the straw that broke the camel's back of like kind of like Gale and Dewey kind of embracing each other more romantically, or rekindling that flame, because, you know, right after they're safe from Ghostface, that's whenever they start talking more romantically. Really smart stuff here. So, and I actually really love this shot of both David and Courtney. I love that we see the blood on David's face. I think Courtney actually looks great there. You know. And I love Wes like slowly, you know, we're seeing the love there. It's so prominent. I mean, it helps that they just came home from their honeymoon, and they're the most they've ever been in love is probably right here in real life. But also, you know, going along with the theme of Gale looking at Jennifer as like the visual representation of the old her, isn't it so perfect that the new Gale, you know, the more morally righteous one, she gets to throw the punch this time. This is the first time Gale Weathers threw the punch and didn't get punched. Liked that. Also, a very clever line that people probably didn't like at the time, that it's come back around and now everybody says that. My lawyer liked that, especially me as someone who was in law school. People said this to me all the time. Oh, you're in law school and you have a Scream podcast. Haha, my lawyer liked that. Cute. Also, I love this little touch of Jennifer trying to touch Gale and, like, you know, for comfort, and Gale takes the hand down. That is very Gale Weathers. That's part of their dynamic that's so rich, you know? So... Also, I just love this shot of the you know, of the threesome here. Just the way that they're set up, and like how damaged they look, and like the background, and now I killed her. Again, we're complicating the mosaic of what we thought about Billy and Stu, right? And now here we are in basically the second half. Well, not really, not yet. But see, this is what makes Scream 3 so good. It's the mystery. It's so... I've probably said it 10 times already, but I'm going to say it again. It's so rich. It just feels like, you know, there's so much here to go through. There's so many vibes. There's so much thoughtfulness put in here. So... I love Kincaid. Again, Patrick Dempsey, he is so commanding in this role. He's so smooth in this role. I feel like he's a real human being. I feel like there's a huge backstory with him, even in these little scenes that we learn more about with his scene with Sydney, of course. But and also, I love this scene for the mere fact that, like, it's like, boom, boom. Okay, here's the plot. Here's what we're working with. We're recapping, you know, what do we know? What don't we know? We need to get Sydney here. Also, isn't it interesting that, like, Dewey is kind of like the protector of Sydney here. He's going head to head with Kincaid. And had Kincaid and Sydney been married like we wanted them to, they could have still dated. They could have still been a couple for a time. But it's almost interesting. Like there's two people who are butting heads about who's protecting Sydney, who has the better idea of protecting Sydney. Also, I just love Gail like being so annoyed with them and like the man-child aspect. Like, okay, boys, like, you know. And again, like, you know, Courtney Cox, really great performance in this scene. All three of them were really good in this scene. But again, it's not over the top showy for her. It's very internal and subtle, you know. This is classic. Like this, a moment where Sydney comes out of hiding. Like I can't think of a better way Wes Craven could have done anything here. And stuff like this really goes underrated for just the warmth and the humanity and like the drama, the human drama of it. Again, the reunion, and like we also, you know, it's just so classic. The music, the lighting, Nev's the look on Nev's face, the look on Dewey's face, like, you know, the connection is so strong here. Also, I love this. Like, is she all right? And see, Sydney, she comes with the receipts. She's ready. Like that's the thing about Sydney Prescott in Scream 3. She is always like she is 3 steps ahead of the killer, who is 2 steps ahead of everybody else. And it's a constant push and pull between her and Roman. And because they're brothers and brother and sister, that push and pull, that who's going to win is more intensified because they're both really qualified and up to the battle. You know. And again, this sweeping moment with Gail and Sydney, this is so good. Oh my god. You know, I also just love this like hug. This is adult cinema. This is human shit, okay? Like, you know, the development of them from 2 punches to a should we hug, shouldn't we hug? You know, we've been through so much together. You know, I don't like you necessarily, but we wouldn't be friends under any other condition, but you're still an important person in my life. Really smart. So, again, look at this adult scene. We have adults. Isn't this nice? Isn't this revolutionary? It's just such a nice reunion scene. Like, you know, this is where the trio becomes the trio, and they don't have to tell everybody that they're the trio. We've been through the first 2 movies. We've been through the first half of this movie, and it's just like, yes, these are our 3 tall dragons who cannot be defeated. These are the gangsters, you know. And it's just like this is where we see them in the way that they've been built up to. This is why we love the trio. Is a scene like this and seeing them in this way, and seeing them for how much they're accomplished as characters. Also, you know, on point with Sydney's character development, like, you know, it's about her mom and it's about her frustration that, again, you know, here we are. There's more about my mom I didn't know, and I want to see where this picture was taken. So, okay. And like, you know, people say, oh, I never really got them that they were a couple. Bullshit. Like, you know, first of all, he was completely infatuated with Sydney in that scene earlier. And now Wallace makes the joke about getting her flowers and candy, you know? Oh, God, people, pay attention. Like, but if you didn't catch it, it's okay. I'm not being critical. I love you guys. Again, also, you know, the trio becoming the trio. This is such an epic shot of them on the Sunrise lot, where all 3 of them are in the frame. They all just feel like such epic characters and such epic people. It's like, you know, Luke, Han, and what's her name? Leia. So also, you know, Martha Meeks being like this kind of like hippie girl with like cheetah pants. If that feels like Martha Meeks, like the hair clip, the sunglasses, like it's just, you know, that's exactly who I would have imagined as Randy's quirky sister. So this scene is also just one of the goats. It's one of the best. It's so good. It's such a great way to include the rules. Also, great performances from the trio here. With each of their reactions to the things that Randy is saying, it's so specific to each of who it is, and whether it's Gail, whether it's Dewey. Like everything that Dewey reacts to, it feels the most Dewey. You know, Nev Campbell, I think, gives a better performance in just doing reaction faces to Randy's video here in this, you know, 2-minute scene than, I'm sorry, the entire new cast of Scream 5 and 6 put together do in the entirety of those 2 movies. I'm sorry. Damn. You know, again, this is a trio scene. This is, it also just shows the consequence. It's like, it was one of them. It was somebody that they knew, that they were friends with. He's gone, you know, and he's speaking to them beyond the grave. Like, that's powerful. It's a really wonderful moment. it's brilliant, to have him doing this, Same rules apply. If this is just another sequel, but it's not, So, and there could have been more to the video that we didn't see right there, where he talked more about another sequel. But I love that shot of Nev with her eyes, and then she looks over to the side. But it does exist. It's a force to be reckoned with, because true trilogies. That wasn't true from the get-go. All revealed something we thought was true that wasn't true. Nev is so beautiful. It's a mix of her beauty and the emotion she brings to the scene. It's just so epic. Oh my god. 1. Killer's gonna be superhuman. Check. Wes did a great job of doing that. Freeze his head. Decapitate him. Is it bad that if I say this is my favorite Randy? Even though this is just a cameo? This means you, Sid. I'm sorry. I love that Wes, the things that Randy says here, they actually matter to the plot. Like, they're so spiritually inside the second half of this movie, in terms of like the past not being at rest, Sydney's on the table to die, and how the killer is superhuman. Also, it's just so solemn. It's so reflective. It ends on such a sad note, because there is tragedy here. These movies are dramas. They're, again, like, how can anyone look at this and say, oh, this is a comedy? No, look at the sadness here. Look at, listen to the score. Look at Nev's face. Look at what Randy just said. Look at the expression on his face. He said, I didn't survive. I'm not here with you guys. So, wow. Well, okay. So this is where I kind of say is like the halfway point for Scream 3. You have the first half and the second half. And basically from here, the movie just keeps getting better and better and better and better until it finally crescendos. So whenever we did like the Scream 3, when we did like the Scream, like breaking the Scream movies down into TV episodes, this was always one of my favorite ones, because like Sydney and Gale, I kind of lumped basically from here through the end of Sydney's Stab 3 chase into one episode. And it's so cool. Again, we have our two leading ladies, our two titans, they each get a huge kind of episodic thing in this little section of the film. Sydney gets her big Stab 3 chase scene, and pushes her story forward and kind of explores her character arc. And Gale pushes forward the story by learning that Maureen Prescott worked with John Milton back in the day. No movie, no bodyguard, being stalked. Because someone wants to kill me? No, because someone wants to kill you. So now, starting now, I go where you go. That way, the killers will. So you, they won't kill me. They'll kill you. Make sense? None. So people have said that that's kind of like the thesis of Scream 3 as well, is like in terms of the meta and how it kind of views Hollywood. It's kind of true, and it's actually a very smart monologue. I know it kind of seems silly and ridiculous because it's coming from her, but like when you break it down, what she's saying, it's like, oh yeah, that's kind of smart. Bitch. Don't tell me what to do. Again, duo. I also just love that Gale. She's just like, she's being herself. She's being strong. And Jennifer does the goofy, cartoon thing where she peeks around the corner in a really fast way. That is funny. It's theatrical. It's kind of like, again, you have the human and you have the caricature of Gale Weathers right here. And I also love that their relationship kind of grows from this point on. And that's the beauty of what Jennifer is as a character, is like, she's presented in kind of like an antagonistic way to Gale Weathers, who the person we're supposed to be on the side of. And by the time that she dies, we love her so much that she's grown to be part of the trio, Gale and Dewey's storyline, to be so great that we miss her when she's gone. We don't want her to die. And that happens naturally through the growth of her character over these scenes and her relationship with Gale, and like seeing her interact with this information that she learns. So there's the marvelous Carrie Fisher. Originally, this was supposed to be Jamie Lee Curtis, but I'm glad that it was Carrie Fisher. I really like this character, and I like that it's because like this is a trilogy. We just learned from Randy this is all about trilogy, so we get the Star Wars reference. We get the ultimate trilogy here. And this is just a fun scene. It's just a fun time with Gale and Jennifer investigating. I love when Gale Weathers gets to investigate. That's another beef I have with Scream 6, is like they didn't let her investigate, or the investigating that she did was off screen. Like, and I hope that there's rumors that there's going to be an investigation in Scream 7 with Gale and Sydney. I can't wait to see this. But yeah, anyways. It's worth $2,000. Are you going to help Gale Weathers or not? Love this shot of Gale and Jennifer right here. I think Courtney looks badass. Jennifer is like, this is we're starting to love Jennifer by she's helping, you know what I mean? Also, this shot right here of like the movie reels, in like the crate, very interesting of Wes Craven. Like again, the cinematography is so interesting. The eye of Scream 3 is so interesting and intriguing. He does these artistic shots that don't feel super artistic. They're digestible, but when you break them down, it's like, oh no, this is a beautiful, beautiful, thoughtfully made film. So what are these movies? Am I Zombies, Space Psychos? Back in Milton's heyday. Back in what? See, I just love this. I love the clues. I love the information. And again, it's a page turner. It's like, holy shit, what's going to happen next? Oh my gosh, Maureen Prescott worked with the producer of Stab. This is suspicious. Let's keep going. Let's keep going. That's the fun of Scream 3. It's the adrenaline. Oh my gosh. So, oh my gosh, we're entering one of the greatest sequences of all time in the Stab 3 set. Again, same bathroom as Scream 1. Again, it's an Easter egg, but it feels emotionally earned because of everything we've learned about Sydney so far. I love that her hand is shaking. Wonderful acting by Nev. Also this moment, she says, "Come on, Sid." Such a human portrayal. Such an emotional portrayal that it's not over the top. It's very internalized. You can tell Nev has kind of like worked out what the musical notes would be of the emotions of the looks in her head before she did the scene. And I love that Sydney goes into fighter mode. Like, she's not fucking around. And this is different than Scream 1, right? We see the growth from Sydney in Scream 1. With Sydney in Scream 1, she just stood there. And Sydney in Scream 3, she's 2 steps ahead of a potential Ghostface attack, She has the pepper spray. She's kicking the door in. She's badass. She's grown to this point. Oh, I just love it so much. An underrated thing about Sydney in Scream 3, people criticize the fact that she doesn't have a lot of scenes with the Stab 3 cast. She doesn't fucking need to. She has her own shit going on. Second of all, she has this scene, and this is the scene that matters. She's connecting with the person who is playing her. She is seeing almost a different version of her, a younger version of her, somebody who's looking up to her, not knowing like, oh, girl, do not look up to me. I have so much bad shit going on in my head. You have no idea. Also, just that look, a look of Nev Campbell is worth 1,000 fucking words. So, let's talk about Angelina for just a hot second, before we get to the stage. She was supposed to be in one version of the story, the second killer with Roman, and that there was supposed to be like this kind of gross that they were dating, and like she is the Sydney. It was kind of like a Jill storyline, and if you wanted to be her, and it works that way if you want to look at it as though Roman was working with her, because like she could have been helping him here, and then whenever he kills her just to take her out to make it simpler, and we never know. We'll never know, or he stabs her, or it looks like she's stabbed. We never actually really see it, and then she is able to get off free. And in fact, Emily Mortimer isn't listed in the deaths on one of the DVD extras, and it's just like interesting. Maybe she did get away, So, but there's so much open-ended thoughtfulness to Scream 3. It's so great. And see, this is Sydney's score, the house. She's in the Mocker house. Like, how sick is this? Like, she doesn't even know that she's in the Mocker house proper. She's coming out of it, and it's just like, holy shit, she's looking around. This is a payoff. This is an emotional payoff, especially because we kind of knew this was coming. We knew that there was a set here. We didn't get to really see it properly whenever we were on set before, and it's just like kaboom. Like, this is the magic fireworks. This is what's earned. If Sydney would have been in the shrine in Scream 6, this is what it should have been like. And Sydney gets to relive the past. Like, in some ways, she's kind of like stuck in time in this character arc of hers right now. She's stuck in this mode of everything that happened to her in the original, and happened, to her mother, and things that she doesn't know about her mother that are tied into these settings. It's like she can't move on from this moment in her life. The Mocker house. Billy and her relationship with Billy and what that did to her. We see it in the bedroom, but then also, her being attacked for the first time in her home, and then going up to her mother's bedroom and the crime scene. It's just like, wow, she can't move on from that. That's what she's wrestling with. So not only is this just a cute, scary, thrilling adrenaline rush of a sequence on a set piece level, it's also deeply intertwined into Sydney's character arc. She is stuck in this moment in time, and she's wrestling with it. And part of what Scream 3 is doing is like it's allowing her to face up to her fears and break through and choose to, overcome everything that she's gone through in the past, and learn the truth about her family and be able to put it aside and move on from it. Even though that the set isn't exactly the same, it's so spiritually linked to how her bedroom in Scream 1 looked. It's wonderful. So, yeah. So people, one thing that people used to criticize about Scream 3 was like, oh, the door. How did the door close? There are so many different ways. I'm not even going to entertain that. I'm not going to waste my words on that. But again, here's another example of Sydney being on the ball. She's three steps ahead of the killer, who's 2 steps ahead of everybody else. She thinks, wait, the killer could be in here. So did you see her like shudder when she opened the door? She's like, yeah, I'm on it. And then she recognizes, no, this is the way you got to do it. You have to close the one door to get the other door. Kaboom. Also, the Creed poster, we love the fact that Creed was intertwined with Scream 3 as a big headliner. So, wonderful acting from Nev here in this sequence. It gets better and better, of course, but, I also just love this jump scare. Kaboom, Ghostface jumps up where Billy used to jump up. Billy jumped up there twice, and there he is, the manifestation of Ghostface and the manifestation of Billy Loomis, So I love this thing here. People have said, "Oh, this is a plot hole. How did Ghostface get to the other side?" What are you talking about? It's a fucking set. I'm sure, I'm sure that door that Roman comes through here is on the other side. It's not like a literal closet, like you dumbass. And again, Sydney is reliving the past. She's literally reliving the past and what she's already gone through. She's more skilled this time, but she's still kind of stuck here, I love this badass thing that Sydney does here. And so when Roman comes up the steps, he's probably thinking, oh no, Sydney opened the door and she fell through. I'm just going to check. And if you notice, he stops. Kaboom, right there. He doesn't go any further. She pulls him through. And that's how she gets the upper hand. So stinking smart. Doot, doot, doot. Marco Beltrami's best score, by the way, like Scream 3. So many instruments, so much emotion. Sydney yelling for Dewey is such a gut-wrenching thing. Like this, again, best actress, Oscar. Honestly, my favorite performance of all time is Neve Campbell in Scream 3. Again, girl in Scream 7. I don't know how you're going to top this. I don't know how you're going to top this. The next 2 minutes of film here. This is so sad because everything that we've seen so far, we've already lived. We saw the Mocker house, we saw the bedroom, we saw the first chase scene. We didn't see Maureen's death. So we are living something that Sydney already literally lived. We're living it for the first time. But it also gives some context to everything Maureen and what happened to her. And also, Sydney is so emotionally overwhelmed right now. She's hearing these voices in her head, and it's not like she's going crazy, but it's just like she's reliving all of these things that are inside her head. It's just, such an emotional, overwhelming thing. I don't believe that someone was under the curtain. I'm sorry, under the sheet. I think that this is, I know in the assembly cut there, Ghostface does run away. In my mind, that was cut. That's not canon. In my mind, Sydney was imagining that. She was so emotionally overwhelmed. She was hearing Maureen's voice. Maureen was talking to her on the phone just last night. It makes complete sense that she would see, walking toward her. This is also just one of the most devastating moments of acting for Neve Campbell. I saw her doing. And again, like even here, I don't see this as over the top acting. It's so restrained. It's so true to who Sydney is, but it's still so devastating. And again, like this connection between Sydney and Dewey is just so beautiful. And I love, we have suspects, we have Angelina, Tyson, and Kincaid. Kincaid runs in, everybody runs in after Sydney's attacked. It's really good. The original trilogy, all 3 films have really great suspects. I think Scream 3's, I just want to talk about that just because we're here. 1 second. This scene again, we just had a really highly intense, highly psychological sequence, really, emotionally, at a height, so I think it's okay to punctuate with a little bit of comedy, just to break up the levity as we move forward and transition and keep going on and on to the next scene. He or she or whoever this is. So this was the last day of filming for Neve Campbell on Scream 3. It was on ET. But anyways, the suspects in Scream 3, I feel like Scream 3 has really good suspects. We have, Kincaid, we have Roman, we have Angelina, we have Milton, right? Who are all really, truly plausible suspects. And that's something that Scream has been missing, I think, for a while. It doesn't matter how many times Mindy points the finger. When you naturally are pulled into, and when you as a suspect are naturally drawn in as a suspect, it makes more sense and it makes people react more viscerally than Mindy pointing to Amber. Well, you're the killer. Oh my god. Also notice the stab 3 script on this on the desk. So detailed. We like it. Also, having Roman here is important because it's like we learned that it's his birthday, and two, it's just a reminder that he exists and he's out in the world. I do kind of wish that there was a scene where Roman and was walking by Sydney and Dewey before she goes into the stab 3 set, just so that she could have met him beforehand. But it's okay, it's fine. This has always been one of my favorite scenes. Because I think this is one of Courtney Cox's best scenes as Gale Weathers. This is like the hard-hitting Gale Weathers, and this is her using her badass investigation, skills, reporting skills for good. Like, she's not actually reporting on this; she's trying to get to the bottom of what's really going on. And also, by this time, we're so endeared to Jennifer. Because Jennifer is actually in on the mystery and solving it for the right reasons. And you're obsessed with her daughter. Okay, easy, Geraldo. Why don't you tell us the truth? Also, John Milton doesn't have a huge role in Scream 3, but he is still so important. He's kind of like a villainous I don't want to say legend because that gives him like a heroic connotation, because he's not like a good guy, but everybody will remember him. You know what I mean? He is a memorable guy and a memorable figure. Also the alien behind him, funny, cute, because he was an alien. Ha ha ha. Still you say nothing. I just love this. Courtney Cox going head to head with this guy. It's like it's like the Taylor Swift song, "My Dick's Bigger," And again, so I haven't even really talked about Me Too, but this is the Me Too scene. This is like learning, kind of previewing what was really going on in Hollywood and what has gone on, but what was really going on. Even at this time, this was at the peak of Harvey Weinstein's power in Hollywood, and how the balls of Wes Craven to make this movie right under his nose, and kind of expose him in a way is crazy. And the idea of like Me Too happening in 2017, and then people going back and revisiting Scream 3 and being like, oh wow, Scream 3 was talking about this 17 years ago. It was just that you weren't paying attention. Maybe you shouldn't have been such a dick about Scream 3 back then. Innocence. And Maureen is such a tragic figure. Like, listening to him talk, it's just like imagining what happened to her. It's so sad. Play the game or go home. Again, Wes starts out on the perfect image of the of Maureen Prescott's pictures that have reemerged. So this is one of my favorite scenes of all time. I know I've said that several times, but this is this is one of the ultimates. I talk about Scream 3 having an adult tone, an adult setting, and like characters who are just sitting and talking about their feelings. There's no action, there's no killing. This is the perfect example of it. Also, an absolutely excellent performance from both Neve Campbell and Patrick Dempsey. Excellent writing of both Sydney and Kincaid. Like, Sydney's trying to figure him out here. I think that she is kind of attracted to him. I think that she sees him as a suspect. Is he a suspect, or is he somebody who's actually trying to help me? She's trying to figure him out. And yet, while as Sydney is doing that, we're also learning things about him. We're learning, where he's from, what his vibe is, a little bit of his backstory, why he does what he does, and like, the fact that he is haunted. He's haunted like Sydney's haunted. And he literally says, I see ghosts that don't go away. We've literally seen Sydney see ghosts that don't go away, both in literal Ghostface and Maureen. They were soulmates, and he should have been married. They should have been a couple. Fuck it. Ghosts are tough. You can't shoot ghosts. But yeah, so this was one of the. So apparently this was Patrick Dempsey's first day, and they gave him this scene to learn on the day of, and he's effortless. He's perfect in this scene, and I love how it went from being the Kincaid scene, like learning about who Kincaid is, and now we shift back to Sydney. Right here, because he says, well, what did you know about your mother? And see, he's getting what he wants from Sydney too. He wants to know what she knew about Maureen, but it's also, he genuinely cares. Like, he genuinely likes her. You know what I mean? I always thought I had the perfect mom, the perfect family, until I found out I was wrong. But the way that Neve does every word is just so perfectly choreographed. Like, even the pause, the murmur and the as soon as I thought I had more secrets, the lip purse, like everything is so perfectly chosen as an actor here. And then we crescendo. I don't know who my mom was. And that is Sidney Prescott in a nutshell here in Scream 3. And really the entire original trilogy, but like this is what she's struggling with. And like look at that. They're just staring at each other. She doesn't know, are you a friend or a foe? Like, are you trying to kill me? Or are you trying to help me? You know, I don't, you know. And it's interesting that they're complete strangers, and Sidney opens up to him in this way. And sometimes like that's what you need. Somebody who doesn't know you, you don't have to be accountable to that you can just be completely honest with. And Sydney is. Hey detective, what's your favorite scary movie? Some people don't like this line, and to which I say, fuck you. I love this line. And it's also, isn't it interesting too that like this phrase was used on Sydney? My life. Mine too. Because it's true. It's true. You know, it's also just a clever use of the phrase and a use of like what Scream has been playing with, you know, up through this point. What was played on Sydney in Scream 1. I think it's actually an appropriate line. I think it's deep. I think it speaks to both of them, and it speaks to them, their connection, even if they aren't married in Scream 7. They have a connection. They have a relationship that is really well defined and etched out here. So I think that scene is so beautiful. The score, the acting, what we learn about both characters, and the relationship that they build there. And I love the punctuation at the end with the hey detective, what's your favorite scary movie? Isn't it so empowering that Sydney takes that phrase and kind of throws it back? It's something that was used against her, she is now using for herself. And you can do that without being Sam Carpenter, putting on your dad's robe and stabbing someone 50 times. But and yet he's still surprising her. He's saying my life, and then yet Sydney still gets the upper hand. Mine too, right? So also using Sydney's voice on the voice changer, epic, creepy. You know, really, truly a smart thing to do, and to get Gale and Sydney, to get Gale and Dewey and Jennifer where he wants them. So, and here we are entering Act 3, everybody. Yay. So, the first 2 minutes of the finale here before, when the characters are still kind of wandering around the house, it's just okay. This is kind of where I get up and go to the bathroom whenever I watch Scream 3. I guess it's a good scene. It's fine. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just, you know, it is what it is. So here we are, and you know, look at Roman being the mastermind here too, as well. Like you know, we should all go look around and trying to split everybody up so he can get to them one by one by one by one. And the Angelina theory works here too. It's a dual theory working thing. You know, because like it's like Roman takes one, Angelina takes one, they kill them, and then you know continue on. So it all works. Also, I love Courtney's look right there. That look of like her and Dewey. That shot. I don't know. Her face looks sharp, like her nose and her chin. You know, she looks great. I love the outfit that Gail wears in the finale. I love the jacket. I love the orange. It's a great look for her, especially with like the bangs. I haven't even talked about the bangs. Oh my god. So again, it's like back then, like back before like Scream 4 and even after Scream 4, people were just harsh on the bangs just to be mean. And then there was somewhere along the way, like from 2017 on, like around the time of Scream 5, where the meme, like the bangs became a meme, right? It became a joke, where people stopped being mean about them and kind of embraced them as like an iconic part of the franchise, even if they're not the most aesthetically pleasing. I don't mind them. I think people, if you're focusing on the bangs, and I don't know then I don't really care about your opinion of the movie, because it's like, are you really even watching the movie? Are you even engaging with the movie? Love the Stab 2 poster right there. So, also, it's fun to see Roman down there by himself. Also, right next to the Ghostface mannequin. Also, I guess we can count that as foreshadowing right there. Kaboom. And the fact that we see him in the coffin as well. You know, but so, you know, and Scream 3 kind of got shit for doing things off screen, which I think is silly. Like, because Roman got killed off screen, people criticize that, even though he wasn't killed. Like, that's part of the fucking point. But like, you know, imagine if we would have, like, again, using the Scream 6 and 5 and 6 philosophy, like, so many people got killed off screen in the radio silence era. It's bizarre. But if you are like criticizing Scream 3 because of Gale's bangs, and I clearly just don't really give a shit about your opinion of it, because you're clearly not engaging in Scream 3 in a smart way. So, and they aren't that bad. Like, get over it. she still has the Rock and Courtney Cox bod and face, and I don't care. And so anyways, I love this scene so much. Like, this is, for me, like, this is where like Scream 3 finale starts. It's like kaboom. Like, this is like the beginning of it. I love that Gale and Dewey kind of get their own like version of the finale before Sydney arrives. Like, this is what I'm talking about when I talk about the adrenaline of Scream 3. The direction here, the score, it's just so exciting. Everything's shocking. It's just like, oh, we're finally revealing all of the information, and it's like, oh well, this is how he's done it. This is how he's tricked us. This is how he's getting away with it. And the killer is fucking here. He's got SIDS. He's got it all. Kaboom! Like, Wes is so good at building the suspense and the momentum. Like, it's just like the perfect note to start on. It's just kind of like the jolt of electricity that we need to go into the finale. And everything here is so well staged and well placed by Wes. I like that Dewey gets his moment with Tyson, and like, we're still kind of living off of that moment with the voice changer. We get a little thing, and we get a punchline that relates to meta and the industry. Looks like Stab 3 is back in production, right? And we get to see the room where Jennifer is going to die in the set piece, right? A little preview of it before it actually happens. So, here we are with Gale walking down the steps. Again, amazing direction by Wes Craven. Look how spooky this cinematography is. The fact that the lights are flickering, that Gale is just like this big black blob, and we can't really even see her face. It's so scary, and she's walking down the steps. I mean, that's kind of like, like Scary Movie 101 is don't go to the basement. It's scary down there. So again, I think Wes Craven was really smart about finding ways to make Scream 3 feel, look, and inhabit scariness, even though he was limited by the events of Columbine. I'm just going to repeat that. So again, here's another controversial thing, is the pulse. People criticize Gale checking the pulse. First of all, I would love to see you scared shitless out of your mind. There's a killer on the loose. You think there's a dead body, and you checking a pulse. I like to see how accurate you are when you are not a medical professional, when you're just a TV reporter. Is he dead? She's completely overwhelmed, like, and emotional. Like, do you think that she cared about the pulse? Also, Wes Craven has shown that the pulse, you can really do that. I want to just give a shout out to Halloween H2O. The house is amazing. This is the Halloween H2O hallway. But also, that's a fun jump scare with Angelina right there. Who cares? Roman's dead. Also, like, the Scooby-Doo aspect of the house, like the secret passageways, that's part of Hollywood. That's part of like old architecture and like money and like, whatever. I like it. Fuck that pig Milton. Emily Mortimer is actually a huge star nowadays. Like, she's into, like, I mean, she's a very critically acclaimed actress. She's in a lot of independent movies. She's worked with, like, she's worked on Oscar-nominated films. Like, she's, a really good find for Scream 3 before she was big. Also, this is such a fun surprise moment. Also, very creative. Like, Wes kind of does something different. Like, isn't it so fun to hear a death happening, but they're not seeing it, and then they go to help, and she's already dead. And also, the act of dragging her away off screen is very creepy, and it's also just a big surprise for the audience, but also for Angelina herself. If she is the second killer, she was obviously surprised by being attacked and killed right there. But if she isn't, it's still just a very suspenseful thing. Also, this is the first movie where Ghostface is really taking on a group. First, he did it with the fax machine, and now he's literally going 1 versus 4. That is kind of shocking. And again, if it weren't Roman Bridger, big, bulky, manly, masculine Roman Bridger, could he do it? I don't know. Like, so, yeah. See, and they're all fighting. They're all participating in this venture. So one thing I would change about Scream 3 is I don't like that Tyson's yelling for the police. It's like, stop. Come on. I would just take that half a second audio out right there. It's, this is kind of, Tyson's death is underrated, I think. I mean, I kind of forget about it in some ways. I don't know. But like, it is kind of brutal. He actually literally gets a chase. He's chased out of the room, down the steps. He's stabbed in the abdomen, and he gets the CC treatment. Right, he gets thrown out off of a balcony, and dong. Great shot of Ghostface right there. Again, this is so Jennifer's death scene right here. I think is one of the most underrated scenes in the Scream franchise. Look at this cinematography. Look at the shot of Ghostface when he looks up. That is scary as shit. Like in the in a spiral staircase, secret passageway in the dark, we just see the mask flicker up at us. That's scary. Also, because we've grown with Jennifer over the last, you know, the last hour, especially with her really becoming a hero along with Gale and Dewey and helping solve the case and really be invested in putting an end to it. This is a really sad scene with stakes, where it's like, are you really going to do that? Are you really going to kill her? Also, that shot of Ghostface right there, wielding the knife, where you can't see the mask, you just see the black silhouette. Scary as heck. Again, beautiful, artistic. Like, I mean, it's just like kind of mind blowing. The shots that Wes Craven does in this film. Also, the editing right here in this sequence is awesome. Like the fact that it goes to Dewey, to the mirror, to Jennifer, to Ghostface's point of view. It's just like, and we're not sure which mirror she's behind. Amazing scream by Courtney Cox. That's like, in my opinion, like that's the equivalent of her scream with Randy in Scream 2 whenever they find that body. So I love here. He leaves her once. She's fine. She's by herself. Doop-a-doop, boop, boop. And then they're back together and they're in the same shot and Ghostface grabs her. That is fucking awesome. Wes Craven, my man. So exciting. So exciting. So scary. So fun. You want to talk about fun shots that are smart. That's a fun execution. So yeah. Also, Gale Weathers putting up a fight. We love it. We love to see it. And we see a decapitation there because it's the rules of a trilogy. I love this shot of Courtney right there. And she's like, when it's over her shoulder and her hair is kind of in her face. And then Dewey discovering Tyson. And that's a great reaction from David as well. Again, his acting in Scream 3 is his best, I think. He's underrated as an actor. Poor guy, because he's goofy. So, yeah. But also, and then like, isn't this just like the payoff of a great setup with the voice changer? Gale is trapped, right? She can't yell for him, and she only has the opportunity to call him. And Dewey smartly thinks, "Wait, am I being tricked by the killer?" Because we know about the voice changer. So it's a great follow through of of all of the plot we've learned. So, and to just go further with this, I think the assembly cut has longer footage of like there's a longer conversation about Gale and Dewey talking to each other, which that was effectively cut out. Like this scene, is so exciting because of the it's brief. The action keeps going and going and going. That's part of the fun of Scream 3. Is just the adrenaline ride that Wes Craven takes you on. Like also just like the sound effects, like the So some people, including my friend Carrie, criticize this part. I've never really seen a problem with it. Like, I don't really see it as goofy. I mean, like if I were Roman, what would I do in that situation too? If there's a gun pointed at me and I had a knife, I would throw it. Like, and again, it kind of worked out in his favor. So, also just this visual of Ghostface standing over Gale and Dewey is so haunting and scary. It's so good. Oh my God. And they're totally vulnerable. Dewey's knocked out. Gale is, on the floor in a very vulnerable place. So that was the Gale and Dewey version of the finale. Now we are entering into my favorite thing of all time. Basically, from here on out, it is just like the thing that keeps me going as it pertains to Scream. The reason why I have a podcast, the reason why I'm so invested in Scream is because of everything that happens from this point on. I think this is the scene that we're watching right now. Again, we're seeing a lot of show, not tell. I think it's so cool that we get to see this file and we get to kind of like have a nice little recap, a little refresh of like the impact of everything Sydney's gone through right before she's about to go in and end it. I also just like I like this scene. I like the light music in the background. Nev's kind of reaction to realizing, oh wow, this guy is really creeping on me. He's kind of really checking up on me. He has all this info and all these pictures of me. Again, making Kincaid more of a suspect. So, also Sydney hearing her own voice. It's like she's going crazy. Roman is trying to make her go crazy. She's hearing herself back. First she heard Maureen, and now she's hearing herself. Roman's trying to mess with her. I love it. I can only hear you, Sydney. I only hear you too, Sydney. So again, I think this is Neve Campbell's greatest acting performance of all time is in this sequence. Stay away, Sydney. Also, the control that Roman has over her through the phone is wild. You know what I mean? I think Roman is so underrated as a killer. I think he is, Jill objectively sure is the best, right? Billy has, everyone thinks OG, whatever, basic bitch. I think Roman is the smartest, most strategic, most organized, deepest, most empathetic motive. But also just like this yin and yang of him and Sydney. They're both at their smartest in Scream 3 when they're battling each other, and that's what makes it so fucking fun. This, and here we go with Wes Craven filming the Sydney phone calls in Scream 3, like right in Sydney's face, right in Nev's face. She's crying. You can see all of the questions going through her mind and her weighing the options here and what should she do, and also the pain of hearing Gale and Dewey on the phone call. And part of the arc of Sydney in Scream 3 is, she was literally tucked away from everybody in the woods. Oh God, that's painful right there, of that face that Nev makes, and we're about to get the flash of the bulletproof vest. That is a nice Easter egg. It's also an Easter egg of like, where is Kincaid? Reminder, where is Kincaid? And he's taunting her with Maureen. Oh my gosh! But see, the beauty of this scene is like Sydney she has to make a choice to leave the station, to leave safety, to leave physical safety, and go and save Gale and Dewey, the only people that really matter to her at this point. Also, this quiet moment of Nev is so powerful, where she's kind of crying, but she's finding the courage to go. She's grabbing the keys and she's thinking, wait. What do I need to really take this guy down? A gun. We don't know it's a second gun. We just think it's a first gun. And I just love this, the way that Wes directs this. Dun, dun, with the music building. She's going through the drawers, and then she finds the gun. She pulls out the second drawer, and there it is. And the way that this scene ends, with her slamming the drawer shut, and the music just rises, magical. That is how you uplift everybody. That's how you get everybody revved up for the finale. Jesus fucking Christ. But Sydney, this is a really important thing for her, is her having to confront Ghostface and put herself in the way of Ghostface. The whole movie, she has protected herself from doing exactly this. That's part of like how she's found solace over the past 2 years. And it's also why she's gone crazy since the events of Scream 2, is because she's been alone, but she's been so protected, her physical being, and now she has to make the active choice to leave the protection of her home, police custody, the police station, and go into the belly of the beast and confront the killer, confront her mother's past, confront everything. That is what the payoff here is. That's why we had that sweeping emotional moment with Sydney in the station just now, and also why Sydney gets this moment with Ghostface where she gets to shoot him and says, "It's your turn to scream, asshole." That's her saying, "I've won. I'm here. I faced you, and I've beaten you." That is, there's a completion of the arc there before Sydney goes into the screening room and kind of really learns everything about Maureen. So good. Also, this is so smart. I'm sorry. Like, again, the people who criticize the intelligence of Scream 3, I criticize your intelligence, because look at this. Like, Roman being, again, 2 steps ahead of her, thinking, ooh, I'm going to get her. I'm going to catch her. I'm going to put, she's going to have to use, a metal detector. And he's right. He wins, right? He gets the gun away from her. But little does he know that Sydney's still 1 step ahead of him and has the other gun. That's right, bitch. Also, I love the fact that Gale and Dewey are tied up like this. I think it's so sexy. It's so it reminds me of like film noir. It reminds me of like an old school mystery, and that's kind of the point of Scream 3. Is like, it's like, we're going to we're going back to classic Hollywood. We're investigating Hollywood and like these like the fanciness of Hollywood, right? Also, it's just like such a cool setting compared to the other settings of the other finales. So where is he? He's right there. So this is what I consider like the Sydney version of the finale. Right? Gale and Dewey had their version. Now it's Sydney's turn. And like Sydney, like, I don't consider this the finale proper. Like the reveal, when Sydney's in the screening room, that's whenever it's like the reveal. I like that Sydney still gets a set piece herself here at Milton's mansion, even though she wasn't with the Stab 3 cast. Everything that's going on here with her at the pool, her with Gale and Dewey here, her with Kincaid, her being chased around into the screening room. You want me? Come and get me. And then her in the bookcase, all of that counts as its own like little 5-minute chase scene set piece. That's like equivalent to like Sydney being chased around Schumacher's house, before she falls out the window. That's the equivalent here. So again, people, it's just packaged right next to the reveal, right? So that's why people kind of forget or conflate the two. But this is actually a really nice Sydney sequence, Sydney scene. I love this thing, this scene right here with Patrick Dempsey, because like he is so stinking good at playing the suspect, but also kind of the hero. It's like you really can read so many different interpretations of this look right here with the gun, with him, that smile. You know, it's like, what should she do? Should she trust him? I don't know. She doesn't know, and you can see her shaking and trembling. Oh my gosh, it's so good. Two actors at the top of their games. And also Courtney Cox's facial reactions when she's tied up, so fucking great. Again, subtle. You know, she's not drawing attention to herself. She is supplying the film with a backbone that it needs while there's a lot of stuff going on. Also, I love that, you know, this is where it's revealed that Kincaid is not the killer. You know, I mean, I guess he still could be, but like, you know, this is where it's like, oh shit, so he's off as a suspect. And I love that Kincaid is really going to battle with Ghostface. Look at this fight, you know? And Kincaid really gets beaten up here. He gets stabbed, and like, you know, he got his head bashed in right there. You want me, motherfucker? Come and get me. So before, you know, Ghostface was saying, Sydney, you come to me. She did. Now she's turning the tables on him. She's saying, you want me? Come and get me. So I love it. Love this so much. So such good action. I feel like, you know, Wes Craven and Nev Campbell made magic with the action sequences because of her abilities as a dancer, yada yada, but also just like the staging. Like, I just feel like the original 4 films had such great action. Like, even, you know, so and again, I think the film's playing on our expectation of Scooby-Doo, right? Because like we're all waiting for it to the book, right? Because we've all seen the episode of Scooby-Doo where they have the book that opens the thing, right? So I mean, it's like, you know, okay. Whew, what a nice little Sydney pre-finale scene. And now here we are in the proper, in the killer reveal finale proper. So like whenever I talk about finales, like this is what I mean specifically. Whenever I talk about finales, I mean like, you know, the scene when the killer reveals himself to Sydney. And I think this is where it starts. So, if I had to like, if sometimes people ask me, well, what's your favorite scene in any Scream movie? And I would say this, from here to the end, right? After Roman gets shot. Also, again, we're carrying through the Maureen aspect. How creepy and how sad and how vicious is it to show Sydney footage of her mother being creeped on in their private home, you know? And how awful is it of Roman to do this to Sydney? Like, do we not see how he is just fucking kind of ripping her emotions and her heart and her trauma to shreds by coming out in the body bag? It's just, you know, and playing with her mind because she's, you know, was it real? Was it not real in the Stab 3 set, you know? So, you're not going anywhere, Sid. So that's really Scott Foley under the mask, and I think it makes a difference. You know, I don't know. So a lot of times, like, it's the stunt performer, but I think like having Scott be the person in the Ghostface costume this whole time really makes a difference of, you know, just the physical intimacy as Sydney's kind of learning this stuff. And as it kind of builds up, because like Roman isn't taking off the mask and saying, oh, it's me, your brother. He is like, boom, ba boom, ba boom, like really setting it up before the mask comes off. I think it's the greatest killer reveal in terms of the killer making themselves known to Sydney. It's so epic. It has everything. It has a great story. It has an amazing buildup. He's in the costume. He takes the mask off. Like, it's everything that you want. And so, you know, here is the famous look of Sydney. It's like, I don't know who you are. That's part of Roman's plan. Roman doesn't want Sydney to know who he is. He, you know, imagine how much it would compromise his plan for Roman to show up to Sydney and say, oh, hey, I'm Roman Bridger. I'm the director of Stab 3, you know. But rather, you know, isolating Sydney from him and keeping him out of sight of Sydney, that makes that makes it more compelling and more reasonable that he would probably be able to get away with killing her, you know, by lowering her guard. You know, there's no way that he's going to find out that it's her or whatever. This extra footage of Liev and Lynn McCree and Billy's father, Hank, you know, all of that is sensational. It's part of what makes the original Scream trilogy so remarkable and why we all love it so much is how cozy it feels. It feels like a real world out there. It's not just it's like we can envision everything because we're seeing little bits of that time, right? I'm a director, Sid. I direct. So, you know, Roman's motive here is really deep. It's not just that he hates Sydney and wants to kill her. It's not just that he's jealous of her. It's not just that he's jealous of her from a sibling point of view. It's jealous of her from the fact that he has suffered all of this pain, and he thought that he was taking care of it, that he would be satisfied by the death of Maureen, but that just triggered to give Sydney even more. Sydney already had the life with the family and that he didn't have, and now she has this extra fame, and it's just like, are you fucking kidding me? So it's very deep. It's not even just that he wants to kill her, it's that he wants to take away her fame, from her, and like this image of her that's out there in the world that she is this saint. Also, great little scene with Kincaid and Gale and Dewey. Again, that's part of the excitement of Scream, is like the cross cutting. you know Also, this is like truly the only time Sydney has ever gone head to head, one on one with a killer. I mean, I know she did with Jill in Scream 4, but Charlie was still there. She still had an accomplice. It just, Scream 3 feels extra intimate because it is a mano a mano. Um, See, everything that we've been like investigating and probing over the past 2 hours is finally coming to bear. Everything with Milton, everything with Maureen, everything with Rena Reynolds, everything with the photographs, everything with the Stab 3, everything with Sydney's trauma. It's all, So, anyways, Roman framing Sydney, I find to be such a brilliant move on his part. Because she was isolated from everybody throughout the movie. Gale and Dewey were the one with the Stab 3 cast. It's conceivable that Sydney, did go crazy, especially because the cops have it on record that, she was seeing things in the Stab 3 set. She was, causing all this drama, and there was no evidence of it. The pressure of another movie about you, the discovery that Milton destroyed Mommy Dearest, you finally just snapped. See, like what's he doing? He wants to take something away from her, make her look bad, and seize the hero role for himself. It's very deep. There's so much emotion here. Who's the one who bravely faced down the psychopath and killed her with her own knife? You're gonna pay for the life you stole from me, Sid. Nev's shaking right there. Oh my God. So, my favorite Scream quote of all time right here. I've heard this shit before. You know why you kill people, Roman? Don't you? Because you choose to. There is no one else to blame. Why don't you take some fucking responsibility? Fuck you. Fuck you. Oh my God. Oh my gosh. I'm like overwhelmed. Oh, and now we are entering. So that's my favorite quote. Not just what Sydney says to him, but it's the fuck you. Fuck you. Like that's what makes it extra great. And this fight is the greatest Scream fight of all time. It's so fucking brutal. Again, I've talked about it at length in this episode, but this idea that Roman and Sydney are truly they're each other's equals. And I think that the fact that they're siblings plays into it, because they think alike, they're equally skilled. They are really going, they're both at their prime athlete trying to get at each other. And, I think it was such a smart decision by Wes to let, so they actually had an original ending. This is all reshot footage right here. The ending stopped, and then they entered into this other part where Sydney just kind of got away and she hid, and then she stabbed him. And I love that they went back and reshot it, because they let Roman truly get the upper hand over her, because feeding into Randy's rules, right? We are, the hero could die in this one. And we're actually kind of led to believe, oh, wow, this is happening. This could be the end of Sydney Prescott as we know it. By the aggressive way that he's kicking her and punching her, but also strangling her right here, So I like that the lights go out. It just makes everything scarier, spookier. It's great. Roman is so aggressive. Just you can feel it just propulsing off of him. It's palpable. And I love, again, the use of Kincaid. He was left off. He was a really important part of the beginning part of the finale, and now here he is. He's coming back around to help Sydney in this moment in a way that Gale and Dewey couldn't. Gale and Dewey didn't make it into the room. Kincaid did. It's also very Gale, Scream 1. I love the shots here. Kincaid with the blood on his face and the gun. Beautiful. Nev, that is one of the saddest moments I think we've ever seen Nev Campbell as Sydney Prescott. The look on her face, the sadness, the helplessness, how much she's truly been beaten up in this moment. Like she physically, her entire body is shaking. Also, again, the smarts right here. Roman thinks, I'm going to shoot her. Sydney gets the upper hand with the knife. Roman gets the upper hand with the gun. But oh wait, Sydney has the upper hand with the bulletproof vest too, bitch, because they're siblings and they think alike. So emotional, Right, this is like so intense. Not only did he shoot her once, but he shoots her again. Oh my God. Wow. And right here. Sid! Ed, Gail yelling Sydney's name. I have goosebumps right now. I've seen this movie literally, over 1,000 times, and yet here we are, still crying on air. And just for a slight second, we think Sydney's dead, and that Roman thinks that he has won. And it's like, okay, time to go to the next step, But no, she's gone. That noise of the score, so sharp, so effective. Like we're really in Roman's point of view, even though he's the bad guy. You know what I mean? Or feeling what he's feeling, and it's so great. Such a great setting too. I haven't really got to talk. Oh, and there's the ice pick. I love this shot of Nev with the hand. I guess I have skinnier hands than my sister. My sister has always said that my hands look like Nev's, and that this will tie into something when they hold hands. We used to play, like, Abby will say, "I'm Roman and you're Sydney," and I'm like, "Well, I'll be Roman. I'm the boy." And Abby's like, "No, I mean your hands look more like Nev, and my hands are chubby." I'm like, "Okay, I'll be Sydney." So, and I love here Roman is thinking on his feet. He's sharp, man. And yet Sydney is ahead of him. I love that it's cross-cutting. We don't see her. We only see like certain parts of her. We see the phone. We see the ice pick. We see her taking the ice pick out of the thing, Boom. Again, Patrick Lussier editing. We get the flash of this, flash of that, flash of this, builds up to his face. Bam, Sydney wins. And the ice pick, of course, ties into Scream 1, where Tatum says, basic instinct. And Randy downplays it and says, that was an ice pick. Not the same thing. Yes, it is the same thing. We are ending that. We are ending this story. We're ending the trilogy with the ice pick, with the feminism, with Sidney Prescott as the badass. She is the winner. She is the victor. Take that. The way that Sydney and Scott, the way that Nev and Scott played this scene is so emotional to me. It's so real. And the fact that Sydney sits with him as he's dying here, there's just a different level of intimacy here. There's a different relationship. There's a different, there's more empathy here. It's very complex, the Sydney and Roman relationship. I need to have a full episode on it. I say as though I've never talked about it on the podcast ever. Also, Gail saying, Roman, it was Roman, with the score swelling in the background. So emotional. And we enter here, my favorite moment ever in a Scream movie. Oh my God. Right here, baby. There's the handhold. The amazing score in the background. Roman is struggling. Sydney is right there. So much going on. So much to be said about just this 10 seconds of film. Oh, dear God. I'm like, And Sydney leaves as she pulls her hand away. It's like she's putting, it's almost like she's patting down, like as she pulls her hand away, she's pulling away from the baggage and the trauma that has ailed her. You know what I mean? That look of Nev right there. He wasn't superhuman, Dewey. So beautiful, so distraught, so emotional. It's just like such an amazing performance by Nev Campbell. Head. Again, and this, again, is exciting and fun, and it just gives us one last little bit of whatever. And the killer was superhuman, but Dewey took him down, right? And it's nice for Dewey to feel relevant. It's nice that Dewey got the moment to kill him. They've each gotten their thing over this movie. Everyone gets to be happy and fulfilled. So, and here we have our people sitting over the body of the killer. It's nice. And doesn't it feel climactic? Doesn't it feel like we've been completely thoroughly we've worked through this plot so thoroughly? And that shot of Nev leaning up against the wall, fading into the sunrise, so gorgeous. It's just like, isn't that the perfect example? Sydney's sitting in the darkness, and now it's coming into the light. She's out of darkness, And this is also, this is like so my friend Justine called this the Steven Spielberg ending. And it's so true. It's the happily ever after that we all really deserve, that these characters deserve, and that makes the story feel complete. Like, I feel like you can walk away from Scream 3, and this could have been the ending for the franchise forever, and everybody would have been completely 1000% satisfied, not only for the fight that we just saw, not only for the Sydney character arc, not only for the Roman of it all, the Maureen of it all, but also just this part of getting to see them living happily ever after. You couldn't write better endings for these three characters. Gail and Dewey, after all of their struggles, and the thing about it is why this payoff works is because we've seen their trials and tribulations as a couple, and we've seen how well they work together and how strong they are when they are together, when they're not fighting. So, it's such a nice payoff, and it's such a fairy tale way to end this story. That's emotional, but also real. Like, this is what we want. This is like, this is traditional happily ever after, and it's so nice. Also, the cinematography here is just so gorgeous. The orange and the warmth, the golden hour that they got here with both Gail and Dewey and Sydney is just truly remarkable. I love Courtney's reactions and like her facial expressions as he's been talking. I love the kiss too. Probably the best Gail and Dewey kiss we've in terms of like what we get to see of them kiss. Oh, and that look that she gives when she puts it on, she's like, oh my gosh, that smile, oh my god, you know. They are at rest. They are at peace. And here we go. Sydney opens the gate. This is metaphor. This is film metaphors. We love it. And she's happy. And the music is what really sells this. I mean, obviously the visuals and Nev and the dog and the happiness and it's perfect. I mean, there's no notes. 10 out of 10, 11 out of 10, 13 out of 10 to be Taylor Swift. And, that could have been the ending shot of just Sydney walking with the gates open. The movie could have ended there. But what does Wes do? He takes it one step further. He shows us something that we've already seen before with Sydney locking everything up. And she stops and pauses and thinks, do I have to do this anymore? And she's still uncertain right here as she gets pulled away with Kincaid and Gail and Dewey. The door opens. What does it mean? Again, just like the handhold, it could mean a million different things. But I think the most common thing, the most consensus thing is that she is not afraid and she's not going to be so paranoid that somebody is there or somebody's after her because the door is open. She can walk away from that at peace. And isn't it? It's just so poetic. It's so beautiful. It truly feels like the end. So, wow. I'm exhausted. No, that was honestly, I had the time of my life doing this audio commentary with you guys. Thank you for listening. And we get also, I think Red Right Hand was used really effectively earlier on in the film, which was when we saw Sunrise Studios, in terms of describing the environment and the atmosphere of that, But I also think it's just genius to use it here over the end credits because since it is the theme song of the franchise in a way, like what better way to end the original trilogy storyline than with this. No Ghostface Flash. It's just, the Ghostface is done. We're at peace with Ghostface. Love David, love Nev. I love the shot of Courtney. I wish it was in the movie. Great shot for Patrick. Scott Foley, my man. Lance Henriksen. Your mommy and daddy. Oh, my boyfriend, Matt Kessler. Jenny McCarthy. You're under the mirror. Day after day. Parker Posey, you'll see that pretty face trembling wait as you become your mom and daddy. Scream twice. And a special appearance by Jamie Kennedy. Even though he was gone from us, he was still shown like the utmost utter respect by having the halfway point centerpiece of the movie with the rules. Which is very emotional, but also, being the last person, the last image we see of a Scream film in the original trilogy era. So, wow, Wes Craven, thank you so much for making this movie and giving my life purpose. So, and thank you to everybody out there who listened. I really had fun doing this, and I hope you had fun too. Again, if you would like to hear more audio commentaries, I can't promise that they will be as good as this one was, because this is literally my favorite thing in the world. But subscribe to the Patreon. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.
All copyrighted material used or referenced in this show belong to their rightful owners and made possible by the Fair Use Act.
And number 3, never, ever, ever, under any circumstances say, I'll be right back. Because you won't be back.
Get another beer, you want one?
Yeah, sure.
I'll be right back!
Dear God, Ryan,